Hello there friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. In the book of Boba Fett, the legendary bounty hunter is going to have to use every trick and tool in his belt in order to achieve his goal of uniting the various criminal cartels in the galaxy. And so I thought it'd be a good idea today to list all of the various cartels, gangs, and other criminal syndicates that Boba Fett might run into, and how he'll have to most likely deal with them. The Crimson Dawn used to just be a band of ruthless mercenaries that went from planet to planet stealing resources and oppressing the local people. Their actions actually inspired the creation of other bandit groups like the Enfys Nest. Eventually though, during the Clone Wars, Crimson Dawn would get rolled up into Maul's larger organization known as the Shadow Collective. This was a large criminal conglomerate that also featured the Hutts, Pikes, and Black Suns. The Shadow Collective wouldn't last long though. After the Siege of Mandalore and the execution of Order 66, the Crimson Dawn were ordered to go into hiding by Maul. After the death of Maul, you would think that the Crimson Dawn would just cease functioning. But then it was revealed that Lady Qi'ra, an old acquaintance of Han Solo, had filled in this position, and the Crimson Dawn were not only back, but almost everywhere in the galaxy now. And they were no longer just a criminal organization. They were now a populist movement whose ideology was driven by Qi'ra's own terrible experiences as a gutter rat on Corellia. Her ultimate goal is to get rid of individuals like Darth Vader and Emperor Palpatine and try to make life easier for the average man and woman in the galaxy. How Boba Fett will play into this all depends on how Qi'ra receives him. If she views him as a threat to her overall goals, then the Crimson Dawn will come after Boba Fett with fury. Boba Fett and the Crimson Dawn do have some history together. After Boba Fett was given Han Solo in carbonite, the Crimson Dawn would actually steal the smuggler from Boba Fett, and Qi'ra would try to ransom him off to the highest bidder, so there could be some bad blood here. The Crimson Dawn is considered the largest criminal syndicate in the galaxy and one of the 5 major syndicates. Although the various Hutt families routinely waged open and clandestine wars against each other, they still viewed outsiders as inferior to them. And from time to time, when a great external threat emerges, the Hutts will band together and follow the directorates of the Grand Hutt Council. But a lot of things have happened throughout the Galactic Civil War to the Hutts, and mostly bad things. First, Palpatine has Darth Vader wipe out the entire Grand Hutt Council. This consolidated all the Hutt's remaining powers and gave it to Jabba the Hutt. But then when Jabba the Hutt was killed by Darth Vader's daughter, this creates a massive power vacuum in all Hutt clan territories, and because of the very top-down nature of how the Hutts ran their organizations, most of their operations collapsed without them. Several months after the death of Jabba the Hutt ruling council still had not found someone to fill in his position. Instead, what we see are the Hutt subjects, major domos, and even serfs rising up and carving up pieces of the Hutt Empire for themselves. The Nikto, for instance, were an alien species that were commonly enslaved by the Hutts and used as enforcers and workers. They were one of the species that benefited greatly from the death of Jabba. Boba Fett has already taken out one of Jabba's former employees, Bib Fortuna, and he'll probably have plenty more to take on before all's said and done. If there are any Hutt leaders out there ready to challenge Boba Fett will either have to instill some fear into them or just take them out. And that's because the Hutts really only trusted their own kind, and they have a very arrogant view on other species. The Hutt clans, despite their major decline in power, are still considered one of the 5 major criminal syndicates in the galaxy. So for all of you guys out there who are thinking about becoming a bounty hunter, why not get yourself a lightsaber? Set yourself apart from the competition. And also, why not check out our sponsor for today's video, Own a Saber. All of their lightsabers are on sale by 20% until December 20th. Plus, if you use our promo code MEOW, that's all caps, you'll get another 10% off. So act fast before this promotion runs out. There's more information in the description down below. The Pikes were one of the largest spice-pushing organizations in the galaxy. They had their operations centered around Kessel and had close ties to organizations like the Hutt Cartel. At one point in time, they even joined up with the Shadow Collective in order to avoid going to war against Maul and his allies. They also left the Shadow Collective when it became clear that the organization was going to fall apart. Throughout every major galactic conflict, the Pikes mainly focused on their trade of selling spice. They sought peace and collaboration wherever they could, which is key to their survival strategy. I think the Pikes will be highly compatible to Boba Fett's own attempt to restore respect and order back to the criminal underground, as long as Boba Fett doesn't mind all of the spice trading and slavery used by their organization. In Legends, Jango Fett's father was actually a slave for a short period of time, and that no doubt shaped his worldview. The Pikes Syndicate is one of the major 5 syndicates as well, and they are loosely associated to the Crimson Dawn during the period of time that the Book of Boba Fett takes place. The Black Suns are the other major player and mainstay in the criminal underworld during this period of time. This Falian-run organization had many different rackets, but were best known for their arms dealing and providing muscle and their private fleet to the highest bidder. By the Imperial era, they had also begun dabbling in slave operations in order to feed the Empire's military-industrial complex. The Black Suns are still around at the end of the Galactic Civil War, but most of their operations will now be limited to the Outer Rim. Which is why if Boba Fett is going to consolidate his power in that region, he'll have to eventually deal with them as well. The Black Suns are still considered one of the major 5 syndicates. The Red Key Raiders are a smaller outfit. We see them in the first episode of the 2nd season of The Mandalorian. They're essentially a criminal syndicate that poses as a legal mining corporation. They just basically jump claims and seize territories and towns illegally using force. Cobb Vanth, a former slave and newly appointed mayor of Freetown on Tatooine, would stand against the Red Key Raiders and drive them off using Boba Fett's armor. The company would try to collaborate with the Black Suns and set up operations on Jakku much later. Boba Fett will have to deal with them if he wants control of Jabba's holdings on Tatooine. After the Hutt died, many smaller organizations like the Red Key Raiders would try to fill the vacuum on Tatooine. The Red Key Raiders will also be ready for Boba Fett, most likely because Cobb Vanth kind of did impersonate Boba Fett by wearing his armor during his own valiant encounter with him. The Crime Syndicate rounds out the 5 major syndicates. It's the crime family we have the least information about, but apparently its culture was chaotic and lacked honor or ritual. These guys were all basically unhinged lunatics and loose cannons. They were heavily targeted by Imperial Grand General Cassio Taj's war on the criminal underground. Another gang that Grand General Cassio Taj targeted was the Suntoll Pride. This was a criminal gang based on the Outer Rim jungle planet of Suntoll. They mainly focused on smuggling in the border regions of the galaxy and were widely considered the 6th member of the 5 syndicates. This group was in direct competition with the Hutt cartels, but repeated raids by the Empire have weakened them significantly. Lastly, we have the syndicates of the heavily industrial world of Corellia. Boba Fett has had dealings with organizations on this planet in the past. First, we have the White Worms. They were a much lower level street gang that was focused on petty crime. They would oftentimes recruit orphan children like Han Solo into their numbers. Then you have these 2 warring groups known as the Mourner's Whale Syndicate and the Unbroken Clan. Both gangs, thanks to Corellia's thriving military-industrial complex, were heavily armed and capable of doing a lot of damage. Boba Fett and several bounty hunters were hired once to launch an attack on the Unbroken Clan on behalf of the Mourner's Whale Syndicate. The job was botched and resulted in both gangs gunning after Boba Fett and the surviving members of that job. So as you can see, Boba Fett is pretty much connected to most of these criminal cartels. He's either worked for them or against them once in his life, so it will make his attempt to consolidate power in the criminal underworld that much more interesting. Well guys, let me know what you think about this episode in the comment section down below. Also, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. And as usual, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.